I went into this thinking it would either be my new favourite of 2020 or I would hate it. And god fucking damn it, why did it have to be the latter? This is quite slow paced and I typically like slow paced films, but in this case, honestly, nearly nothing happens. This just feels like an excuse to get two women nude on set. Kate Winslet and Saoirse Ronan are big enough names, so I'm sure they weren't pressured into doing anything they didn't want to, but they still very well could have been. Either way, I don't want to see them fucking nude. If you were actually good at your job, we would know that they were in love and we wouldn't need a disgusting sex scene to tell us that. Francis Lee, what were you fucking doing here? What was your direction if you actually gave any? How did you manage to make Saoirse Ronan, my favorite actor, give a bad performance? There were bits in here from Winslet and Ronan that just felt so stale, and I'm not sure what they were trying to convey, because I don't even think they knew. Despite the slow pace and me not being able to get into it, the film did finish sooner than I expected, but I think that's because I may have fallen asleep. I don't think I did, but there were a few times where my eyes closed and I had to force them back open. There really isn't much of a story here, and there's a subplot in there which doesn't add literally anything. I would like to know why it's there. I would also like to know why this is a period piece, other than the fact that it was based on a book. Why is this a period piece? Just to snatch an easy costume design Oscar? Because it feels so half-arsed. The dialect doesn't line up with the 1800s and the outfits and sets just seem lazy. So does the way it's shot, and also there's some off-putting cuts as well. Overall, it didn't feel like I was watching a film. It just felt like I was watching a series of moving lights while I progressively got angrier. Fuck this film for its poor direction and unnecessary sex scenes. If you want to watch a romance that's an old-timey period piece, just watch Portrait of a Lady on Fire, because that's one of the best films ever made, and I know this was shot before that came out, but it really feels like someone watched that and then pooped this out, because it even has the same non-diegetic sound design in the way that it has none. Also, that film actually deals with how women were oppressed, especially lesbians in that era, as it was written and directed by a woman, not a lousy old man, so watch that instead. Also, I just want to say, this was the closing film for the BFI London Film Festival, and obviously this year, because of this little thing called COVID, don't know if you've heard of that, that couldn't happen, you know, so screenings were done either online or select films were sent to select cinemas for one day only. And to think that there was a time where I thought that I was lucky enough to have Ammonite showing at my cinema on October the 17th. God damn it, man. I nearly cried watching this film, because it was so fucking boring that I had a full-on existential conversation with myself in my head that I just made myself so sad and nearly cried. That's how fucking dull this film is. It's so shit. It's just utter dog shit. I hate that this actually got a theatrical release. If COVID never happened, this is like a straight-to-TV movie for old people to watch and be impressed that you can make text appear on screen now. Like, it was so bad. Like, the direction is just so lame. The cinematography is the most cookie cutter, basic, like there's just no thought put into it. There's absolutely not an inch of creativity put into this film. It's led by atrocious performances, honestly just awful. The story is just so weird. There's like a couple of subplots in there that are just kind of forced in there for conflict and never get resolved. It's paced really poorly. Yeah, I really have nothing else to say for this shit because you guys are never gonna watch it. It's just, it's bad. Leave it, die. I'm not too sure about this one, guys. At the time of recording, I saw this 4 days ago, and I've mostly forgotten it other than some tidbits. Can't remember a single line of dialogue other than like one. I remember one line of dialogue. Nothing really special happened. I didn't really have any expectations because I went into this blind just like I do pretty much every film I see. But someone I follow gave it a high rating, so I was anticipating a good film. You know, I went into this wanting to like it just like I do every film I see. But I don't know. I think I'm missing something because this film just didn't do it for me. This film just didn't really affect me. It's a pretty nice looking film and it's competent. It just didn't do it for me. Maybe it will do it for you, but there was just not really anything in this film that I could attach myself to and enjoy. It was just kind of 100 minutes of stuff, and that stuff did not grip me. But don't necessarily listen to me because this has mostly gotten high ratings, so clearly there's something that's just not clicking with me, but my might click with the majority of people, because, you know, it is a well-made film. I just did not like it. I don't have any distaste towards this film, and it's not even the fact that this isn't my type of film. It just didn't do anything for me, so I don't really have anything to say. This is another pretty generic crime comedy that will give you about 10 chuckles within its 90-minute runtime. Another film that is devoid of all logic and has a lot of dumb character motivations. You can add this to the list of ever-growing films that could have been solved within 10 minutes by just going to the police. But it's also another film that cements Olivia Cooke as a wonderful actor, and I gotta say, the cinematography is great, and I loved the editing. The editing is exactly what I would do. Watching it was like watching your child do everything correctly, because the editing choices were so good. But as I just alluded to, the story is not. The script is below average while everything else is above average. This director, Barnaby Thompson, has got the sound choices, editing choices, and shot choices all nailed down, although there were a few Dutch angles where it was like, am I watching Thor? Why is this a Dutch angle right now? But the writing is quite poor. I love how it's shot and edited, but it's a generic two dumb boys, one overly smart and witty girl with a weird forced sort of romance thrown in. I'm kinda on the edge of liking this. I'm not really sure, because there was a lot of stuff that made me shake my head, but also quite a bit of stuff that made me go, oh, well done, buddy, who's a good boy. That was not funny. Let's transition. When COVID suddenly hit big and everything got delayed, this was the film that I was most sad about not being able to see. I was highly anticipating it, and with the release dates thrown in the air, I was worried that it may end up not getting a theatrical release as it was an indie. But it did end up getting a theatrical release, and I'm really glad it did, despite it not being as good as I was expecting. This is a psychological drama that shows you the woes of obsession by displaying a case of religion. It's a film that doesn't necessarily scare you, but it certainly makes you uncomfortable and will leave you horrified by the end of it due to the constant tension that just never snaps. The film, despite its simplistic concept, doesn't follow any formulaic conventions. It's presented in such an exquisite form that may leave the casual view... God, I sound like such a pretentious arsehole saying that, Jesus Christ. What I mean is, this is a film that not everyone will love. I could see how this could really bore someone due to its slow pace and long build-up that at times does feel lackluster. But I just really appreciate the work put into this film because it feels so special. This is Rose Glass's debut feature, and it definitely did not feel like one. She was able to write a story full of dread by encapsulating the feeling of not wanting to be alone and fraught with angelic imagery. She's great at putting you into the shoes of Maud, brilliantly performed by Morfydd Clark, even if you don't want to be in them. She just forces you into them and you can never manage to get your feet out. This left me enthralled because of its unpredictable narrative that's put together with interesting sound design choices, a bloody great aesthetic, and the graceful method she uses to tackle the film's message that will be engraved into your brains by the end of it, despite it not being explicit. It's so well articulated in the way that it isn't really articulated. I love how this film is very simplistic yet also very intricate. It manages to be vague and clear at the same time, which is something I don't really understand. Like, how are you able to do that? I don't really understand how she was able to pull that off. One thing I am sure of though is I got a lot of respect for Rose Glass for making this eloquent piece of entertainment, and I anticipate what she does next, and hopefully I won't be even remotely disappointed by what she does next, because I was slightly underwhelmed by this. However, I am looking forward to seeing it again. It will certainly end up being a Blu-ray on my shelf, because I was going to record this last night when I saw it, which was October 8th, but I just wanted to let the film sink in, and the more I'm processing it, the more I'm liking it. So I think this is a film that you will learn to love over time. Okay, so there you go. There are some films that have come out recently that I have been lucky enough to see, or unlucky enough to see. You you can make your own decision. Uploads are gonna be most probably like really slow because I'm back at school and fucking hell, this is homework.